unfair pay, manipulative working conditions, and continuous mass layoffs. These are just a few of the things involved in BuzzFeed's fall from grace.
I was there from 7 in the morning to 2 o'clock at night on a Friday.
Back in 2016, they seemed untouchable, but today, they're lucky to reach 10,000 views on a video while having over 20 million subscribers. On a good month, BuzzFeed's channels combined would pull in hundreds of millions of views. And at the peak of their powers in 2014, BuzzFeed was said to be replacing TV as a whole in the US, with a report even showing that more than 50% of all millennials in America were reading BuzzFeed articles. But what even is BuzzFeed? It was created by a man named Jonah Peretti all the way back in 2006. But before that, Jonah was a media student at MIT. After graduating, he came in contact with some of his future business partners and they decided to start a news website called the Huffington Post. But as that started to take a different route, Jonah decided to partner with a man named John Johnson and start BuzzFeed, or BuzzFeed Laboratories, as it was called at the time. And at the very beginning, they didn't even have a single writer or editor. It was just a simple algorithm that would collect news stories from around the internet. Fast forward to 2012 and they would officially start a YouTube channel. At first, they would just post your standard Facebook style videos. How to restore your faith in humanity, how animals see the world, and the most awkward cat sleeping positions, for example. Then they would slowly start posting original skits, like 7 things we wish Dad would stop doing. These videos were successful, but nothing compared to the creation of their first original BuzzFeed video series. And from here on, things absolutely took off. Each and every one of these new series would pull in millions of views on every single video. Their series like Worth It, Ladylike, and The Try Guys would pull in hundreds of millions of views each, all leading up to them raking in over 20 million subscribers and over 18 billion views. And even more impressive than just the success of their channel as a whole is that BuzzFeed was able to constantly create new concepts and ideas on a monthly basis. But there is a small issue with this all. Each of these series would require a host that would quickly start to outgrow BuzzFeed as a whole, which didn't seem like a problem to them at all at the time, but would end up biting them in the ass later on. But the even bigger problem would be around credit, or rather the lack of credit around these series. Each and every single one of these BuzzFeed video series were actually created by their hosts, who were all full-time employees at BuzzFeed as video producers, while BuzzFeed had it in their contracts that any and everything created by their staff was actually owned by them instead of the creators. Meaning that no matter how well these series would perform, the company would reap all of the benefits while the salaried employee wouldn't see a single dime. The average BuzzFeed video producer earned $74,000 per year, which on its own sounds great, except for the fact that BuzzFeed's main offices were located in Los Angeles and New York, where the average salary is $72,000 and $84,000 respectively, which means that they were paid either just around or well below the average salary, all while bringing in hundreds of millions of views, which translates into millions of dollars for the company. And they would actually never end up making things right here. Sophia Nygaard, for example, currently has over 10 million subscribers on her personal channel, and she started off as host and creator for BuzzFeed series Ladylike, which was all about women creating content together and trying things out for the first time. She completely created and hosted the show individually along with her co-host.
Another point on transparency is that there's really no clarity to the viewers about what video producers do at BuzzFeed and which videos they make. For example, a lot of people thought that I was an actress for BuzzFeed and didn't know that I not only made a lot of videos for Ladylike, I actually started Ladylike with Freddie. Because our names aren't attached to the videos that we make, people would often ask me to explain or answer for videos or even articles that were produced by other people that I had nothing to do with, that were sometimes made on the other side of the country or even the other side of the world.
This also means that nobody working at BuzzFeed as a video producer could ever receive proper credit for their work, or even use something as a reference for a future employer or as their portfolio. As Sophia herself even mentioned, people used to actually think that she was an actress, as everything was seemingly created by BuzzFeed themselves and these people were just the faces for these projects. Or whenever they would end up receiving scrutiny over outrages that were caused by something a colleague of theirs had made or said. And this could even be about someone they never even met or talked to, all because there was never a name tied to one of their videos. But as BuzzFeed would continue to fall off in the late 2010s, the common topic of why I left BuzzFeed videos started to take off. It became a mass exodus of former employees stating what led to them eventually leaving the company. One person in particular would bring some of the worst parts about BuzzFeed and their working conditions and office culture to light. Before this, everything mentioned was about full-time employees and what they had to go through, but nothing was worse than what their interns were actually put through. Will Neff, who is also formerly part of 100 Thieves, was also an intern at BuzzFeed back in the day, and he described describe what things were actually like behind the scenes. Interns were put on a ladder and the most disgraceful videos were left to them, rather than making the video producers partake. These would include less extreme videos like men wearing makeup, but also more extreme videos such as men wearing lingerie in a Christmas theme, essentially selling their entire future internet footprint and dignity for a chance to become a full-time employee at BuzzFeed. But the worst of them all was titled "People Try Drinking Their Own Pee for the First Time."
We just put a video out where we made competitive interns drink their own piss to show essentially that these kids are so dialed in and so desperate to get a job that they're willing to consume their own excrement. This is a problem.
Will also describes how they can go from interns into becoming full-time employees. For this, they have two tasks at hand. They need to create and produce videos that actually perform well, specifically at least 1 million views. And 2, they need to impress other employees and keep them happy. Which creates a culture of interns who say yes to any and every ridiculous concept they were asked to be a part of, all to keep the people around them happy and to actually end up being hired. He even goes as far as to mention that one of the video producers asked him to pierce his genitalia for one of their videos.
That's a true story. One of the producers asked me to pierce my for a video.
Luckily enough, Will actually said no to this, but you never know who could be coerced into saying yes to this. They would start using manipulative tactics to turn interns against each other. They would imply for their interns that it's smart to not ask to be paid out for their hours which they were working overtime. And they were led to believe that asking to claim your overtime hours as extra salary would result in you being considered a worse fit than other interns who wouldn't ask to do this. None of this was actually ever said to them, but interns have also mentioned that this was very clearly implied to them. But even worse than this all is their pinning system. To celebrate each and every time one of their interns would have a video reach 1 million views, they were brought on stage to receive a button pinned to their shirt as a sign of success, and also as something that they could then show off around the office. And each one of these buttons would signify how likely it is that you were hired as a full-time employee after your internship.
And for the interns in particular, the buttons basically represented your odds of becoming a full-time employee.
All of this turned the internship into a rat race, where an intern with 4 buttons was seen as lesser than one with 5 buttons. And, as you'd come to expect, after all of this work, most of the interns part of this system were simply fired at the end and let go. All of this after delivering the company with millions of views for thousands in YouTube ad revenue or sponsorship deals. All of this after receiving a reported very low salary. BuzzFeed's time at the top seemed like a fever dream at this point. Their last video was posted at the end of 2023 and they received only 31,000 views, with an overwhelming amount of dislikes, and the state of their comment section made their entire situation very clear. This channel really fell off. 20 million subs, 7,000 views. BuzzFeed is cool, but after this I understand why their employees want to quit. All of this would come to an end in 2023 when it was announced that BuzzFeed News was shutting down, laying off another 180 employees. All because they were unable to turn a profit anymore. This meant that only the main BuzzFeed platform now still exists, and here they just post quizzes and blog articles. This all marks a very low point in the whole digital media revolution that was predicted in 2014, but it was thought that BuzzFeed would replace TV networks in the US. Luckily, a large group of these former video producers and interns have gone on to become massive content creators and even TV stars. Like Michelle Khare, The Try Guys, Watcher, Quinta Brunson, Kristen Kiriko, and Jenra Durello, just to name a few. But for each of these now successful creators who used to be a part of the BuzzFeed system, there's a long list of names who were robbed of their creative credits and fair compensation, and they're likely never to be heard of again.